We're back. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher, Desopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. The golf has been played. The kids are back in school. Travel is done. We have number 6 back in the building, the Quan Cosby. And before we talk any football, we have to give you the absolute biggest congratulations. Q, this is our 3rd season doing this with you, man. We know what you did on the field. We got to see it growing up as kids, but getting to sit here with you every week and seeing how much the university means to you, it's awesome to see you get inducted into the Hall of Honor and be the 2nd best golfer to Jordan Spieth in the Hall of Honor for the 2023 class, man. Biggest congrats to you. Couldn't be more deserved by a person who loves this university, man.
Appreciate that, man. It was wild, bro. It first and foremost, it's so freaking good to be back. Everything's starting to feel normal again, like the fall usually does. It has its way of course correcting, but it's another level per the hot freaking summer and craziness of this year. But it was cool, man. I had a great call from CDC and crew to tell me that piece of it, and I laughed because I guess you do what you do, right? You do it for the right reasons. You want to ball out and you want to contribute, but to get that recognition coming from a small town like I did to a place like the freaking University of Texas is pretty humbling, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, every time I look on Twitter or Instagram, people putting clips up of number 6 making that block against OU, 6 more days left of football, posting their jerseys. So, I mean, Longhorn Nation loves you, man.
Yeah, man. Longhorn Nation is one of a kind. We all know that. And even, we've talked a million times about going to the SEC, all the different things that are happening. That's why, ultimately our folks, out east that wants to, and by the way, they have a great tradition and a heck of a university when it comes to that stuff, but it's just not Longhorn Nation when it comes to football.
Right.
Or really all the sports combined. They have 0 Directors Cups. And so given that love, it usually happens around that time. Of course, very timely this year. We're going in the Hall of Honor. But, man, it's been cool, dude. It's seeing that, knowing how many years I've been removed is pretty wild. But at the same time, it kind of tells its own story. I'm ready for this current regime to keep pushing my records higher and to ball out and get in the playoff and do their things. So it's twofold. I'm pumped. I'm appreciative, but yeah, I think Worthy's going to pass all our freaking records, and I hope Jay Witt gives him a run for his money. So I'm ready for the season, man. It's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, we love you, Q, but we hope your records get smashed, and that's all. That's all respect. That's all respect given, baby.
I got everything I need to get my records now. I got them on the hall, all that. Perfect. Now move them out the way for this hell of a receiving crew, and let's go win some games in a Big 12 championship.
Let's start there, man.
I got a quick question before we get into the weeds or anything. Have you got a chance to watch the Swamp Kings documentary at all on Netflix about Florida?
All right, I'll tell y'all a funny story about that. So yeah, man, I've seen that, but it was funny because Arakpo. What made me watch it is Arak hit me up, and it was me, Roy Williams, Colt, Ship, all of us on the freaking deal, and he hit us up and is like, "Dude, you seen that documentary? We would have smashed their ass." and I was like, "Oh yeah, I told Tebow that when I played for Denver." That they're lucky we didn't play him that year. And then Colt said the same. He didn't say the same thing, but he had some comments about that documentary. So it's between that and some of the ones that are coming out, they're actually pretty cool. Yeah. Just in theory to get a little bit of an insight, but it takes you down freaking memory lane of we should have been in that game. And yes, I fully believe they would have been in trouble if we would have. So yeah, it's some good ones out there.
Yeah, I just asked because that's your era, I mean, could have been in that documentary. And the thing that kind of like stood out to me was just their weight room mentality, which was crazy. Was that like that with you guys when you were at Texas? Like, was the weight room as crazy as there? Because when I played there, like people weren't that big of fanatics of working out. I mean, you had to get in there at 5 a.m., but like when you're done, you're done. Like Tebow talked about how, I mean, he's a different type of animal, but like how those guys, Brandon Seiler, like would live for the midnight workouts, get war paint on and all that and just grind. I don't really remember that at all.
No, man, ours were intense. They really were. And not because I think you had a whole different regime
Yeah.
with Chuck Strong,
Yeah.
but with Mad Dog, no, they were, man. It was all about competition. It was, and honestly, Herman was there during a little bit of that era. That's where he went to grad school, so he tried to create that with the competition and get crappy food. We didn't do any of that stuff, but the competition level. If you think about the folks every day. I laugh. I think I mentioned this before on the field and off the field. I get on game day on the field and I'd be like, listen, no offense, but you're not Michael Huff or Aaron Ross or, Terrell Brown or, any of those guys that I played every day. So it's never easy. You have to compete, but that guy's going first round and you're not. And so that was cool. It all started in the weight room, what we're lifting, guys squatting 500, 400, 300 and going at it on that level. It really, really was. It was almost, of course, some people look down upon, throwing up in practice and all that, but it was almost like you weren't pushing yourself enough if you weren't near it. And so that was a mentality. You got to work your butt off to play at that championship level. And at the end of the day, when you do it on that level, again, I'm not saying the game is easy, but if you push yourself harder, the game is easy. You get breaks in the game. You never feel like you're going to throw up then. And so it's just a different way of almost, raising the bar, so to speak. That ceiling that's here, you're going to push it here because in the fourth quarter, even though that ceiling's up here, you're only going to need this much anyway, and you can finish. And so that's all it's psychological more than anything. How far can some people take it, we live in a sensitive world now, but you talk to any military person and they said they've watched football practices for championship level teams anyway. And we've watched Navy SEALs workouts. There's not, they're not identical, but there's a lot of parallel. And all it is preparing you for the worst situation you may ever do. I'd say 20% physical and 80% mental. That's what it's doing. So yeah, it was pretty hardcore. And they say it's ice in your vein, but really it's how you prepare. So we didn't flinch when it was time to close one.
I'm just hoping that that's just kind of how the mentality is right now for our Longhorns, because as you can see, it breeds results, right? I mean, Florida won 2 national championships and you guys won 1. So let's hope that there's a little bit of that intensity going around in our weight room.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say on the Allen Iverson, the Allen Iverson practice speech is obviously so ridiculous for so many reasons. But one of the parts of it being ridiculous is him poo-pooing practice for such a great player. We used to hear all the time that players hated going against Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan in practice. We used to one of the most famous things in U.S. Olympic, and I know I'm paralleling to basketball, but one of the most famous things in U.S. basketball history is the game that the Dream Team played against each other, behind closed doors. There's no we haven't seen. These guys, the champions, the best players ever, go their hardest in practice. So Quan's saying, for him, it was easier in the games. And you said that before, Q. You said when you got to games, you're going against Michael Huff. You're going against Griffin. You go Rock Pose on your team. They're going against the best of the best. Not just guys, who played in the league for a cup of coffee. First round picks.
Yeah.
Pro Bowl
Earl
players.
Thomas.
Earl Thomas is an all-time defensive back of our lifetime. So there's so many guys. I mean, yeah, it's just, and the whole throwing up thing. I mean, I feel that was my mentality in school too. If I'm not throwing up at midnight in 6th Street, bad juju. I'm not going hard. I'm not going hard enough. I kept saying that to everyone. Everyone's like, dude, keep it together. I'm like, no, this is what this is what the football team is doing right now. We got it. The whole Navy SEAL thing too is hilarious. I'll find myself watching Navy SEAL videos at 11 p.m. What am I doing with my life? These guys are crazy. It's so ridiculous. These guys.
Well, and the thing is, how can you're ultimately eliminating fear and doubt. If you know where your limit is, if you know what it takes psychologically, even in the game of football, you're going to realize that you have a crap. When you go into that last drive in this fourth quarter and it's 110 in Texas, you probably say, all right, baby, we need to do this. I want to run this play. I got 40% in the tank. And there was times where you see someone win a game and they're damn near getting carried off the field to the sideline after scoring a touchdown because They use that last little ounce that they have in the tank, and you have to know where that is. So, nah, man, it's about putting in work, and that's a great point, Nick. That our culture is different. I went to a scrimmage a couple of weeks ago, kind of the moment scrimmage. I know they had another one and they're cleaning some stuff up, but it's a work ethic. It's a pushing the limit. It's an assignment. It's how fast are you playing? Without naming specifics, it is a very different feel. I saw a fraction of it last year. I saw a fraction of it last year. I really did. And some of those guys that were leaders, like a Ford and the cats that returned, Jay Witt, they're even more improved this year per what they want to do and what they're not shying away from. They've earned the right, in my opinion, now to be leaders on that team. We still have a young O-line. They're going to be damn good, but we still have a young O-line. And so it's work, man. They were freaking competing. They were hitting each other. One side of the ball won, in my opinion, the first, quarter, and then the other side of the ball won the second, and that's what we saw. I'm not even on any, level saying they have the players or the practices that we had in our championship years, but it looks similar in a different era. So I'd say it looked really good for the current era. We had a very different league. You can barely even touch quarterbacks and all that now, but in our day, you go at it. So I think culturally, what that documentary showed is go show so many championship level teams, and absolutely not the same, but very similar, certainly to the way they pushed themselves and the work ethic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing I just wanted to throw in there, just a quick takeaway that I saw was, in thinking about and considering the head coaches that we saw at the University of Texas, talking about me, Nick, and Josh, Charlie Strong, we were talking about, was an assistant head coach at the University of Florida under Urban Meyer. Tom Herman was an assistant with Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Both of those guys ended up being the head coach for the Texas Longhorns. But it's very different when you're an assistant or a coordinator in comparison to when you're a head coach, right? Everything stems from the top. And now we have a guy, Steve Sarkisian, who was not in that coaching tree, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. I just think that when these guys become head coaches, it's completely different outlook and approach to everything. When Charlie was our head coach, it was not the same program that Urban Meyer ran with Florida when Charlie was back there. You saw him very featured in that documentary, getting up in guys' faces. Yes, he took the disciplinarian approach, but it was more about, at least from outside looking in, and Nick, you can speak more to this, but it was more about like showing up, holding yourself accountable, as opposed to putting you through the gates of hell and the marine treatment of putting a fire hydrant on you for 5 hours until you say yes, and we'll do whatever it takes to run the ball into the end zone.
I think he softened up a little bit when he became head. I mean, I don't know what it was like at Louisville, but it was more about earning your respect, earning your stripes, earning the Longhorn on the side of your helmet, earning your free swag and stuff like that, getting better meals, as you got better as a team, more than just like putting you through personal hell.
Right.
So
but I think there's two factors to that. I don't think Urban Meyer did that his first couple of years either. The team that he showed, that team was developed. Those are guys that he recruited and brought in, so I think it took him a couple of years. And when he had those dudes, he's like, all right, got him. Let's put him on that level. Almost similar to where we're in the situation we're in at Texas. Yeah. And then even more from a Charlie Strong, to his defense, it was all about earning your way and being that, because he was kind of kicked in the what from day one. You had some of our donors saying they didn't want him. So on one hand, psychologically, he wanted everybody to earn it, including himself, and that changed his coaching ability. When you don't have support on that level, then you can't do that. You really can't. I mean, he was semi walking on eggshells, his coaching, his 4 years here, because of the lack of support across the board. And I mean, that's public knowledge. We just know it. We saw it. He didn't get a long time. And he wasn't successful in the process. I don't know that he was the right choice. We talk about picks versus choices at the University of Texas. But I think certainly all those things factored in.
It wasn't even necessarily like a criticism of Charlie, just that like circumstance a lot of times defines how a head coach decides how he's going to approach communicating with his team, and what kind of leader he wants to be, right? I think for Urban, like a lot of that was desperation, that his job was on the line every single week by nature of coaching in the SEC for the University of Florida. And if he didn't demand that, like he probably wouldn't have had his job, right? And so that was kind of his defense of it and his rationale. And I think I'd love to hear, Q, what you saw from the staff, from our guys with this squad coming into this season. And I just bring that up to say, like, it stems from Sark, right? And I know the record wasn't necessarily what a lot of people wanted it to be, but as long as that foundation is being built, like, that's what's most important. And we've got guys stepping into new roles, just like that Swamp Kings doc showed. It was time for Brandon Spikes to take up the mantle, right? On the offensive side of the ball, it's time for Quinn Ewers to take up that mantle, to be a vocal leader in that locker room, on the field and off the field. And so I think I'm so happy that Sark made the call in the spring to give Quinn the keys, because he's had a lot of time to work at being that type of leader. And now he gets to put it into practice, and he gets to apply what he put into practice onto the field this Saturday.
I think also one of the things that we're kind of dancing on, Urban had his guys in there, and he had a lot of guys. Like, this is the first time in a long time where this QB room, like, yes, Quinn has the keys, but how safe are those keys? Like, realistically, like last year he came in, he was the hottest, recruit in the nation, the hottest transfer in the nation. He was like the biggest recruit ever. But now we have Arch Manning in the building, who might not even be the backup. Like, Malik Murphy is right there too. Like, all these guys are balling.
Malik is balling. He looks good. We haven't seen it with the lights on, but that dude has had as good a camp as anybody on campus.
Okay, so like now we're sitting in a position where not only like is the pressure on, and like you have to work harder on the iron sharpens iron in the weight room, but also the pressure's on from the guys around you. Like, Q, like when you played, like how many wide receivers were great in the wide receiver room? How many guys in the offensive line and the defensive line? Like, how is the competition there? Like, looking at the wide receiver room we have now, Casey Kane is a damn good wide receiver. We've seen him be good for the Texas Longhorns. He is going to have to fight to find playing time. Like Whittington we bring up, like Xavier Worthy we bring up, Nair we bring up. We have freshmen coming in who are good, and A.D. Mitchell coming in as a transfer. I keep forgetting. Like, we just saw, like, we all watched USC. They played their freshmen. The best player is going to play. Like, Sark is going to play the best player. Like, Jonte Cook could play. Like,
what's crazy about that, and it's funny that you bring it up. In recruiting, just a real quick recruiting piece of it.
Please.
I'm always fascinated by the cats who are like, I don't know if I go there. This coach at another school say I may not play because that room is so stacked. What the hell do you think is in the NFL?
Right.
Not going somewhere because a room is so stacked, then you don't need to be on our campus because you don't want to compete. You don't want to get better. And so you're exactly right. That room is stupid. It's so freaking good. On paper, arguably the best room we've had. And we had some good rooms. Me, Shipley, and Sweet had some pretty damn productive seasons. Roy B.J. Sloan, Wayne McGarity, freaking Kwame Cavill. I mean, we've had some receiving rooms. But on paper right now, if they back it up with production, Worthy can, like I said, can pass all of our records. But essentially, Worthy, Jay Witt, Mitchell, if that's the starting three, are you kidding me, dude? That's pretty. Mitchell has 2 national championships already. And so, no, man, competition is iron sharpening iron. And I like the dudes we have on campus now because they're not shying away from that. When Mitchell transferred, he knew what was in that receiving room. Jordan Addison last year, I don't know if I'm going to get a certain amount of balls, so I'm going to go to USC. When I heard that, I was like, perfect. He's not who we need per building that level culture that we saw from the national championship team in Florida. I will tell you, we had the same one in ours. Mac Brown never promised me playing time. He said, I'm going to promise you a scholarship. And if you work your butt off and you put yourself in a position, we are going to play the best people. And that's what happened. And everybody was better off for it.
And you weren't even like a real freshman. You were like coming in again, like in your second cycle, right, Q?
Oh, which made it even worse. I hadn't touched a football in 5 years. Football's played in the fall. I was ultimately done in December, and I got back July of 2005. I finished in 2000, started again in 2005. So no, he didn't promise me crap, but he said I better hurry up and get my butt to work because I'm in the 2s or 3s. And unfortunately, the guy that was starting had an injury history, and the dude was prophetic because that happened, and I'm starting game 4.
Yeah. I think it's clear that Sark is probably not the type of guy to be promising people their jobs as well and playing time. I mean, you get in that game of doing that to players and you find yourself in a very bad position. I mean, you look at Texas A&M, right, with Kevin Sumlin when they had Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen on the same team, and both of them end up transferring. I'm sure they both were told the exact same things as 5-star recruits. And you're looking at our Texas roster, and it seems like Arch, by all accounts, is okay, just, kind of waiting around and for his time to come. I mean, not touching any of his NIL money until he hits the field on his own right, donating. I think he's the type of guy that you want in a roster to know that, all right, like, we're going to have iron that sharpens iron. This quarterback room is going to get better and better. We're going to make everyone better. And I'm only going to benefit from waiting and maturing as a player. And then when my time is ready, it's there. And I think the same thing with our receiving room. I mean, it's just a testament for how deep they are. I mean, there's so many guys that we haven't even mentioned that are rookie or that are freshmen coming in. I mean, there's so many guys left and right that can make huge contributions. And so I really believe that this is the type of, team that they're not looking for. I mean, of course you want to hit the field, but they're looking for results. They're looking to better themselves. They're looking to do what's best for the team.
I agree. And I would even say from an Arch standpoint, and of course, I know exactly what you meant, but waiting, because I think he's already making an impact leadership-wise.
Oh, definitely.
The way the Manning family watch film and study film, that's what he's doing. He could have a full year of watching, studying the good, the bad, the ugly. He wants that data. Ultimately, how do you better yourself? You're data-driven. Well, Peyton Manning, in the very short time I was around him, that man is very data-driven. Eli, his uncles, his dad, his grandfather. These folks know, one, more development. Our line's damn good, but one more year after that, if that works out that way, they're going to be really good going into that league. And watching Quinn, giving feedback. I mean, Arch can essentially, even as a freshman, if Sark's the head coach, he's calling the plays, he's designing it, having that conversation with Arch and Murphy on the sideline, helping Quinn, having almost a coach on the side, or at least trying to be, that's so freaking big for Quinn's development. Yeah. And so it's so many factors. Competition is always a great thing. We got 3 5-star quarterbacks in our freaking quarterback room. Bruh, we were scraping for quarterbacks at one point in the last few years.
Yeah.
Sam was great. Let's be real. Sam was the best thing. And even the other ones, it's not that they weren't great, but they weren't the caliber or at least the hyped up level that we have and the potential that we have. So we're in a good spot, man. And then, like I said, culturally, you saw, and again, there's no confirmation that this is the case, but Arch is on campus for a week and Quinn cuts the mullet.
That's
I
true.
can see a sit down. Hey, man, tell me more about you and how y'all see things. I mean, you have the luxury of having this uncle, this dad, that grand. And even that conversation, Quinn's like, how you present yourself, how you go about your business, how much film you're watching. I could see all of that happening because it did. And fast, I have zero confirmation, but in paying attention from the outside looking in, there's some things that I don't think are a coincidence.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a damn good point. I mean, the guy technically he's your direct competition, in spring and in camp. So you want to find ways to be better than that person or at least model your game after him. But Arch, to your point, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the field to contribute. I mean, we're seeing the waves that he makes in the recruiting war. We get guys to flip to us all the time. There was a picture that was just taken, not even of a football recruit, of the #1 basketball recruit in the state of Texas, Trey Johnson, that could end up coming to Texas, and they're standing side by side and throwing up hook'em. And that couldn't be, more telling for what Arch means to this university, not even on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I heard that. I was just gonna say, I heard that he lost his student ID in the spring because he was just trying to teach Quinn a lesson about holding on to the football. I don't know. That's just what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
I think on It's very interesting we bring up his family because I always think back to our Victor Cruz interview. One of the most pivotal things in one of our interviews ever was Victor Cruz telling us the story about when they were down for the Super Bowl in Miami. And Eli Manning was basically like, look, it's going to be a circus. We are also in Miami. You can go out. You can party. You can have the best time you ever want in Miami. But if we win this football game on Sunday, I promise you the party we have the week after will be the best and sweetest party of your entire life. The team hunkered down, buckled down. They took down the Patriots again. Yeah. And it was the greatest party they ever had, Victor Cruz said. And I think Arch Manning kind of brings some of that. I do not think it's a coincidence that Quinn, and look, like you don't have to be the cleaned up, button up guy 24/7. We see athletes all the time, like, like Brian Wilson
work hard and play hard.
Go complete wild
you have
thing.
To work hard and win.
But if you're the quarterback for the University of Texas and you can't walk around like your crap don't stink anymore because we got a whiff of it last year and it didn't smell like roses, So, like, now you have two guys in the building, like we're saying, that could come in and ball. So I think we're going to see something from Quinn this year that we expected to see last year. And I kind of want to get into takeaways for maybe 2 takeaways a pop for this game. And then I want everyone to throw me a takeaway that you want to see this season. We'll start with you, Q.
This game, first of all, JT Daniels is on the other squad, so like, damn, that dude can ball. I don't know the weapons he have around him, but that guy can play. So, I like that though. Ultimately, that good competition. That's always a big deal. My takeaway though is, as much as next week, the week is going to be a big deal. Go out. If your culture has truly changed, next week's a big deal, but you have to take care of business Saturday. That's how the season starts. Looks so freaking good that maybe by halftime you can be thinking about the next week. So that's me. It's business. We always say it's a business trip. So I think that's one of my certain takeaways. And then I want to see collectively what this offense looks like without Bijan and Roshan. Because they bailed us out. Let's be real. Even when we balled out and then we give up that 21-point lead, we can lean on them and our defense to close out a game and win by 3 or 7 or whatever. But collectively, how do we utilize, because we have a crap load of weapons, a running back room by committee, because we don't have a Bijan or maybe even a Roshan back there, but they're damn good players. And really, you have a plethora of freaking talent. How does it get utilized to make one of the freaking, because I do think we have the potential to have one of the better offenses in the country.
Yes, I'm with you on
that. This is just more of a fun fact here, but this will be the first full season that we'll have Big Bertha 2 for the entirety of the season. So that's important.
It's good omen.
Big Bertha 2 is the biggest drum out there. It's the biggest drum in the world.
Vibes.
Big time vibes guy over here. No, I just thought it was just a fun fact. That's my first takeaway. And I know
like that.
I want the university to rise up with our play. And if we execute, like, we need, as Texas fans, to support the team in a way that they need to be supported to fuel them forward. And I know we're going to harp on it all year. Like, you got to take it 1 week at a time. But I think I'm gonna tie it back to my actual takeaway. I'm gonna tie it back to the Swamp Kings doc, but I want to see a defensive leader make himself known early in the season, feel a presence from one of our guys.
Yep.
And I really want it to be Sorrell. I think that if he can be just a guy that gets to the QB game in, game out, and be a vocal leader for the team, I think that would go a long, long way. But it's got to be someone. Someone's got to step up in that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, echoing what you guys say, I mean, Q, great point. Has this offense play without Bijan? What's the identity? Who's the running back that's going to end up, being that workhorse? Clean game. At the end of the day, let's play a clean game and let's get Malik Murphy some playing time. Let's win by so much, have such a big margin that Malik has to come in the third quarter and we get to finally see what he looks like under the lights. In terms of getting a playmaker on defense, look, I think all the hype this year is around Jalen Ford, and I want to respect that hype, and I really hope that he lives up to it and works his way up into a discussion where he could potentially be a first round, second round draft pick in the NFL next season. I think he has great potential to be the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Starts with game 1, so let's go out and smack in the mouth. I mean, JT Daniels, he's on his 4th college, Q. Like, what does that say to you about the kid? I mean, we were talking about it on our last show, but like, if you're a player in his locker room or even in the opposing locker room, like, I don't think you have much respect for a guy that's transferred 3 to 4 different times.
Yeah, but you have to have some respect, and I think that's my point, to the fact that he's played a lot of college football and he's played in big games and he's played for big universities. I want to see our defense not take him lightly. I want to see it. This is a gimme game, and I want to see it be a gimme game. Like, I want to see us actually, I don't want to see them put up. So I was at the USC, San Jose State game, and yeah, USC scored 56 points, but they didn't cover, and they let the Spartans score 28 points. And their quarterback wasn't, a 5-star recruit, but he had 50 starts under his belt in college football, and he ran wild, he extended plays, and he made plays. We have a defense that's a very senior heavy defense. Obviously, we have guys like Anthony Hill, Malik Muhammad coming in, but like Jalen Catalon's transferred. Why? Like Barron, Watts, Thompson, Crawford,
Collins. Collins have had a great freaking camp.
Collins, you're back. Sweat, you're back. Why did you come back? Like, why did you come back? Like, what are you back to do? Like, Jalen Ford, you could have been a draft pick. You could have been a 4th or 5th round pick if you're Jalen Ford, probably a 5th round pick. Why did you come back? Obviously, you want to raise your stock, but why did you come back to the university? What's the statement you want to make? Because last year, our defense, for the first time in a long time, was looking dangerous again. And my season takeaway is, outside the Bama game, you have the easiest schedule you've had in a long time on paper. You have the best team you've had in a long time on paper. There's a lot of on paper. Paper to only get you so far. There's no more cash really being exchanged anymore. It's all credit card, debit card, and Venmo, baby. Paper's toast. Like, paper could only get you so far. Can you put it all together? Can you play complementary football? Can we see a good, clean game from the offense and the defense in one game?
I will play devil's advocate to that a little bit, because this is the farewell season to the Big 12. There's a lot of haters out there. They're not happy about it. Even with the Big 12 surviving, they're going to be gunning for Texas and Oklahoma. Let's be real about that. They always do, but it's going to have a little more umph on it. And so, yes, to a certain degree, it should be it's certainly going to be easier than when you enter the SEC. Let's just be real. But it's probably going to be, at least for this era, the hardest Big 12 season I think they've played in. And so, how do you respond to that? Go get them. You're the better team. Respect it, understand it, and going back how we started, preparing on a level like Florida did, like we did, like championship level teams did, then you're not even a little bit fazed by people hating you a little bit more. You beat them by beating them. And so I do think we have teams that are going to respond to that on that level and not kind of pee down their legs, so to speak. So it is on paper similar to what we said. This team on paper looks pretty damn good. On paper, it looks like a favorable schedule, but on Saturday, it's going to be a whole different situation. And even the teams that we were so quote unquote supposed to win last year, other than Oklahoma, we didn't really blow people out. We found ways, and then we lost some close ones. So I don't care if they win them all by 3, just win them damn things. But I think they're going to get everybody's best and some. But I also think we have a roster and a coaching staff that develops on a level that we don't give a damn anymore. Let's go take care of it.
Yeah. Toss Nick, season's takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, this is the send-off, right? Let's end on a high note. Take this season personally. I mean, people always love to throw the horns down, whatever. If got no haters, you're not popping. But like at the end of the day, we want the smoke, and we should take this season personally. Like put our stamp on the Big 12, and then slam the door and come into the SEC on a high note. I resonate with everything you're saying, Q. I mean, this season definitely could be really hard just because the target has never been bigger on our back. So, you know, I personally would love to blow out every single team. I was actually looking at the season that we won the national championship, and it looked like it was just cakewalk all season long, like beating teams 20.
We won the Big 12 championship 70-3.
Exactly. Like that's the type of season I want, where like there's literally no doubt that this team needs to be in the college football playoff. So
yeah,
leave no doubt. I don't care for the close games this year.
Love that. Toss.
Like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to follow up. Leave no doubt. The Remember the Titans shout out there is always welcomed.
You could throw out a different Remember the Titans quote if you'd like.
No, I think like, look, we've talked about it at this point. Like, and I know, this is I love these preseason shows because we can go long, all four of us, and we could keep doing this for 3 more hours. Honestly, with coming up of things to say. We have, like Nick said, we have no shortage of motivational tools. I hope the guys use those week in, week out. There is one thing though, like I don't necessarily think that they should be measuring themselves by their successes and failures week in, week out. They should learn from them. But like one thing I was listening to the other day was just an interview that Kobe Bryant had done and a reporter was like, how do you approach each game? Is it like, it's just from the lens of how did I fail or how did I succeed? And he was like, no, like I live in the moment. I trust my preparation and my work, and I continue to learn and grow as I'm going about doing it. And the rest will take care of itself. So I think we know how talented we are, like we said, on paper, but trust the preparation and let everything else take care of itself. There will be tons of distractions. There will be too many motivational tools, like I'm saying, and use it for what you need, but the rest of it, throw it away and focus on that next play and focus on that next snap. And I think then that's how we get to the points where if we play 4 quarters, right, which is something that we've been asking for out of our Texas Longhorns for the last 5 years, we play 4 quarters every single game, our talent and our preparation will take care of the rest. So that's just what I want to see. I want to see 2 halves of football every single week. That's the most important takeaway and all I can really ask for from our guys.
And I think to take it to another level on that, you can develop during the game. You can see what people are trying to do with you. They've watched a crap load of film and seeing that, noticing that, make the adjustment and then be successful at even certain plays that they try to beat you at earlier in the year. Sark and staff, they're doubling Worthy, then design it to, put him in spots to where he could still be successful. That's what we did versus, OU that year. Me and Chip went to the Y, the Z, the slot. We line up on the same side. They didn't know what the hell to do. Like, what is going on? How can we double? It's going to be 4 people on this side and open it up for everybody. So just strategically, there's so many levels of that development. Of course, we've talked a billion times about the 4-quarter deal. Third quarters, I really would like to see us score points every third quarter in every game in the season because we have an offense that can do that. We should never be shut out in the third quarter, like ever. And so those level things is what you hope to see. And where we are now on paper, the reason we always say on paper is because 1, you have to, stay healthy, but 2, after this first game, you need to get better. Second game, you need to get better. If you're trying to have a championship level run, especially Big 12, get better. Let's not see the digression we saw with Quan, with some of the O-line, with certain levels. We saw a couple of spotty. Our defense actually did. They're pretty damn strong all year. And honestly, got better. That's what I want to see from our offense. I just want to see special teams are very consistent. So I want to see a full – coaches say it all the time, in all 3 phases. Can we get a foundation and let that foundation grow? And if they do that, talk about the takeaway from, the preseason conversation. If they continue to grow and develop with the culture that I think has changed and has grown and developed, it's why we're drinking some Josh level, Kool-Aid.
Get some diabetes this season, fellas. let's get that Ozempic sponsor. Let's get some Kool-Aid in the mix. And and that party at the end of the year in January. I mean, we'll slip a little whiskey in it. But yeah, man, it's it's obviously always the time of year to drink the Kool-Aid. But we've drank it, and we've been burned by it before and hurt by it before. Yeah. But all three phases, like you're saying, like special teams counts. Punts, like I have seen this for the better or for worse. I have seen this team in my tenure as a Longhorn lose in every possible way. Missed PAT. There was a game against Oklahoma State where he punted at like 6 yards, and I'm sitting in there in the stands, 15 beers deep with a dip in my mouth, with my disappointed father watching me chew tobacco, knowing I could have gotten out there in my loafers and punted it farther than that. Like, and I ain't no punter. So like, I've seen this team lose, but on the glass half full of that, so have they. They have been a part. The players have been a part of these mistakes. The coaches have seen these mistakes. The coaches have been a part and seen a part of tens and 20 more thousands of more games and plays than we have been, not other than UQ and maybe Nick. But like, they have seen this happen time and time again. So hopefully the work they put in this summer to correct it, like Alex, you were saying, like trusting the work, man. Seeing it out on the field. Keelan Robinson, okay, if you're not going to be our running back, when you get the ball on special teams, kick return, punt returns, are you making a play? Are you putting us in good field position? Or are you taking it to the house? 1 or 2 times a year, that could be all the difference. Worthy, like
when you go in as running back, do the same. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're saying is this. We have seen the pressure bust pipes. Is this the year we're going to see it make diamonds? It does both. They can bust pipes. We've seen it. We've lost. We've given up 21-point leads. Pipes burst, piss down our leg. I think culturally, roster, coaching staff, and development, this might be a pressure but making diamonds type of year, and they just have to prove us right.
Yeah,
it's our job to drink the Kool-Aid. We're homers.
Hey, they can drink the Kool-Aid too. The players can drink. Look, at the end of the day, we drink it every single year. I mean, like I said, we're not going to drink it this year. Come on, we know it tastes good.
I don't know. Best piece of advice I ever received, in my opinion, was get your hopes up. Everyone's like, oh, don't get your hopes up. Don't get excited. Well, you know what? If I don't get excited and I don't get my hopes up and I think it's not going to go my way, like then, and when it doesn't go my way, I'm still going to be disappointed. Right. And that whole time up until that point, I thought it was not going to go my way. So let me get, you know what? If you're the player, like you're saying, Nick, let me get my hopes up. Let me think I'm going to go to the national championship game. Because I bet you the Georgia players who have now won back-to-back, and everyone's like, no one's ever done a three-peat. The turnover's officially too much. Like, there's no way they can deal with back-to-back draft classes like that and the crazy turnover. I bet you everybody in that locker room, I bet you everyone in that coaching staff, trainers, everybody, all the fans are like, we are going for that three-peat, and it's going to happen. They are in the water, and they smell the blood. Like, let's take a swim.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are all jacked up officially, as per usual.
As per football season.
Let's go, baby. We're excited. Really awesome. We'll touch base obviously next week, fellas, after the game and previewing Bama. But let's have a really good, clean game, like you said, Nick. And let's take it seriously as a defense and put pressure on them. Let's take it seriously as an offense, and let's see as many people get involved and do great things as possible.
No doubt.
Cool. Well, gents, hook 'em horns. Q, congrats again to the Hall of Honor, man. Proud of you, brother. And we'll see you guys next time. Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher Soplis, DJ Nikki Snacks Crider, and the Quan Cosby. Until next week.
Shout out Scotty Scheffler, who did not get mentioned at the beginning of this show as one of the best UT golfers as well.
He's number 3 behind Spieth and Quan Cosby.